Hello there everyone. So after watching Thaf9's video on Corpse Party, I was then introduced to this very interesting franchise, and I decided to pick up the game, mainly because I couldn't remember all too much of his video, because I watched it so long ago, so it'd be pretty fresh for me. Without further ado, let's get into it. We were first greeted by this seizure-inducing splatter of junk and gunk, but then a girl. By a candle. Surely here we'll see the world-renowned writing of Corpse Party. She was telling ghost stories. Whoa! Since when was that a setup to a horror game? Next up, we got character introductions, baby. Don't worry, you don't have to think. I'll do all the thinking for you and introduce the basic personalities of the characters. Sakutaro probably listens to My Chemical Romance. Naomi, basic protagonist. Yoshiki, the kid who vapes in the baths and huffs glue. Ayumi started this whole mess because apparently it's a perfectly logical decision to try and do a charm which you got from the person who actually suspiciously disappeared. What an absolute spanner. And, despite loving horror, she is also a little bitch. Sayori... Oh, sorry, I meant to say Seiko.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Is the basic happy one, and is also basically used just as an excuse to put Naomi and her in some, shall we say, risque situations for the likely degenerate audience of this game. Yuka and Satoshi Mochida. You may wonder why I mention them both at the same time. You may wonder why I butcher their pronunciation. You may wonder why I butcher their family name, and actually feel the need to mention it. And to that, I say one word. Incest. Mayu, that one girl who types "rawr" after every goddamn message, and almost certainly has an OnlyFans. And she's the girl who leaves the school, causing the charm to start. Basically, she caused the whole game. Good job, Mayu. And finally, Miss Yui. That one teacher who occasionally swore in order to engage their students. Whew. Now we're done with all of that jargon, we can get into the main plotty bits. So basically, the game starts off because Mayu's parents decide to move house or whatever, so she's bouncing to another school, and Ayumi remembers that she saw a charm on what was presumably Gaia, or another one of those weird crystal bullshit sites, which could make them stay friends forever. Yay! Now, this already seems pretty suspect, and if you were a game character in any sort of game with an 18 on the cover, you should never do this or anything like this. And Ayumi tries to be super cool and say things like, failure is not an option. But John Cena does not much appreciate this infringement on his action hero turf, and so he damns them all to Heavenly Host, and the real fun begins. We first get to see Naomi and Seiko, who natter on for far too long considering the circumstances, although they eventually decide to leave the room. But not before. Bloody crap character introductions? Yay? I mean, why wouldn't you decide to grind the pretty high tensions of this game so far to a massive halt for the sake of not having to be asked with character introductions, where you just walk around as this weird eyeball thing and learn about the characters? Now, I actually really like the concept of this because my memory for names is awful, and hence having a screen like this to refresh my memory is great. But why not just put it as a little optional thing in the extra chapters menu or the extra menu, instead of just jamming it in here, just shoving the square peg into this very round orifice. And you know, it's not even like they don't have to bother with character introductions anymore, because they still introduce the characters later on. Anyway, we do some quote-unquote puzzles which basically involve walking to X, picking up a MacGuffin, and then using said MacGuffin to make a McMuffin, and then advancing onwards, and after a very long time spent picking up and putting down loose boards, honestly it starts to feel like House Flipper at this point, But what's that? A corpse? Whew, thank God, I thought I may need to sue for false advertising. Also, it's here where we get to meet these little fire ghosty things who were dead children, so it's pretty safe to assume that this is one of the kids who was once this body over here. But hey, he tells us that our friends might be here. Sure, it's basically impossible to reach them, but hell if I care. Oh, and we also learn that if you die here, then you relive the moment of your death over and 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 over again. So that's lovely. The girls then see another ghost, except this one looks more like, well, let's just say they tried to keep their family pure for about 10 consecutive generations, and so naturally they got the hell out of Dodge, and outside Naomi and Seiko talk about the dire situation they're in, which is frankly impressive considering the fact that Seiko is doing an impression of Kermit the Frog. We then get to see that it's apparently Heavenly Host's time of the month because there is a massive meaty stain on the wall, and Naomi and Seiko conclude that it used to be a real person. So what does Seiko do? That's right, she walks up and steps in the bloody thing. And surprise, surprise, the non-psychopath of the two feels a bit sick. Jesus Christ, now I know what the sporty kids felt when they had to pick me. We later moved upstairs to the bathrooms. First the boys, where an empty toilet stall yelled at us, and then to the girls, where after opening every single stall, just this one in particular didn't seem to open. But don't worry, if you can't open it, then nothing bad will happen, right?
Get the fuck out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft!
And Seiko, in all of her infinite wisdom, decides that now is the perfect time to shove cream up her arse. I mean, I guess you wouldn't want to die with a dry butt. You know what? I actually do respect that logic. Well done, Seiko. We later got an unknown key. Ooh. From a ghost. Seiko stepped on the big period patch. Again. And I then spent 10 whole minutes twiddling my thumbs and walking around, trying to find where in the hell this key is supposed to be. But I then found that the key was supposed to go in classroom 3A. And it was certainly odd, because the game keeps on asking you, are you sure you want to come in here? And Naomi keeps going, aw jeez Rick, I don't know if we should read this. But Seiko keeps on exploiting my ability to do anything stupid with even the slightest bit of encouragement. So despite any possible curses, we read the paper. Later, after capturing a weird teleporty key thing, we then enter the infirmary and lie down on the beds and have a heart-to-heart, which is about the same level of sentimentality as those 4 AM Xbox parties. Although afterwards, the doors get locked and with hair? I don't know why, but anything with loads of hair in it really does freak me out. So naturally I tried to set the hair on fire, but the game wouldn't let me interact with it. So screw me, I guess. But then a weird smog cloud shows up, who looks a bit like Mr. Burns from that episode that was a parody of the X-Files. And then I tried burning the hair, but it didn't work. And I kept on getting cock-blocked by these weird holes that keep showing up, and then I finally got sparked out. One thing which I do love about this game is that it doesn't simply say you gotta game over if you get sparked out or do something equally stupid like that. It just gives you a wrong ending, which could function as a believable ending to the game. I don't know, I just find stuff like this really cool. But now, I felt reinvigorated, and so I tried again, and after searching a cabinet, I found rubbing alcohol, soaked the hair, and then got out of the Fortnite lobby, where we met Seiko, who wanted to check if we were okay. Not only did she want to check if I was okay, she also wanted to talk for a second about her personal life. Now, not only has the game told us that companions are very important, but also Naomi herself thinks that she should apologize. But I'm a horrible person, and she's a teenager, thus placing her angstiness stat at 90. So I told Seiko to pish off. And according to the game, my petty obstinacy? Hold on. Alright. Would come to be the biggest regret of my life. I may have made the wrong choice here. We then get to play as Seiko, not Naomi, and we hear someone calling out to us. Oh god, game. Don't give me a choice like that. Oh, fine. I guess we'll just deal with the consequences later. I mean, can't be that bad. We later show up to Naomi right next to the bathrooms, who was crying like an absolute bitch. Oh god, I'm a horrible person. You go into the girl's bathroom and you see Seiko dead. Thank God, now I win the argument by default. But, oh bollocks, she's still alive. This then made me do the only logical course of action to beat her, and pull on that rope until she croaked. Bada bing bada boom, end of chapter 1. But wait, what if we didn't read the Doom newspaper? Maybe Seiko wouldn't have killed herself. Maybe we could escape Heavenly Host. Well, in that circumstance, the exact same thing happens, except afterwards 3 ghosts show up and cut Naomi's tongue out with scissors. I genuinely have no clue why this happens, but oh well. But also, in the game, there are these things called victims' memoirs, and they're basically the game's collectibles. Now sure, the game tells you not to read these, but it also told you not to read the newspaper. Well, it heavily implied it, and look at where not reading that got me, getting tongued by ghosts. So I decided on another playthrough to read all of them, and what do I get? Well, Seiko goes cuckoo and keeps on saying, "You poor girl, you poor girl, you poor girl," and Naomi simply loses it. I mean, hell, at least Seiko hasn't been hanged, right? So, now that we've gotten all of the endings for chapter 1, I'll need to do chapter 2. But I haven't done that yet. Oopsie poopsie. So, I'll just make a second part to this video. Ciao ciao, chaps.